On today's episode, high-speed pursuits, ramming and crashes, as well as many other wild police chases. Enjoy the show. On August 20th, 2024, I received information from an Alabama Highway Patrol trooper that a gold Chevrolet Malibu was actively fleeing from them toward Florida. I radioed my dispatch and began traveling toward the state line. Once I reached the 6-mile marker, I was advised that the Alabama troopers were instructed to cancel the pursuit. I then observed the suspect vehicle traveling eastbound on Interstate 10, weaving in and out of traffic with no law enforcement vehicles behind it. I began attempting to overtake the suspect vehicle.
We're almost there. I got drunk because the lieutenant told him to cut off.
I was able to overtake the vehicle at the 7-mile marker and observe the suspect vehicle. With my lights and sirens activated on my fully marked K9 patrol vehicle, the suspect vehicle began actively fleeing and accelerated rapidly. Speeds reached in excess of 120 miles per hour in a 70 mile per hour zone.
Hey, Charles. Eastbound mile marker 7. Swedes 117, Palisades 90. I'll set up for a pit when I get out of traffic.
The suspect driver continued driving with willful and wanton disregard for the safety of the motoring public and law enforcement.
Driver accident. No, we're not. Watch that deputy. Yeah, get it up. Sarge, as soon as I get this run right here, I'm going to hit it. Stand by.
The vehicle was traveling at approximately 115 miles an hour near the 11-mile marker, and traffic was clear. At this time, I conducted a pit using the front left of my push bumper to make contact with the right rear of the suspect vehicle. This caused the suspect vehicle to travel across all lanes of traffic and collide with a guardrail on the south shoulder of the roadway. The suspect vehicle came to a stop. I made a U-turn and boxed the suspect vehicle in. I provided cover for Sergeant Kelly as he extracted the driver from the vehicle. A history check revealed the suspect has never possessed a driver's license. She was being charged with fleeing and eluding at high speed and driving with no valid driver's license.
Huh?
It was supposed to kill me.
Oh, you're a dumbass. It's not going to. You're just going to jail for a long time.
It's okay.
Yeah, you'll love it there.
I know.
On July 16, 2024, at approximately 7:46 p.m., I was traveling east on Wisconsin Road, just west of Medical Park Lane. A black Harley-Davidson motorcycle was traveling eastbound on Wisconsin Road in front of me. The motorcycle passed another vehicle in a no-passing zone marked with double solid yellow lines. At this point, I activated the license sirens on my agency-issued Florida Highway Patrol vehicle. The driver indicated that he was going to pull over on Wisconsin Road, just east of Medical Park Lane, but instead, the motorcycle continued and accelerated, initiating a pursuit. The motorcycle traveled at a high rate of speed in a reckless manner, showing wanton disregard for other drivers on the roadway as it continued east on Wisconsin Road. The motorcycle approached the intersection of US Highway 41 and Wisconsin Road, where the light was red. I attempted to position my vehicle in front of the motorcycle to stop it from proceeding. But the driver maneuvered around me and continued north on US 41, where he made a right-hand turn onto Cortez Boulevard. The motorcycle then approached Thistlebrook Lane on State Road 50, where the driver slowed down and made a U-turn. At this point, I positioned my vehicle next to the motorcycle and gave the driver commands to stop. The driver began to slow down and stated to me, "I'm done," but then suddenly accelerated westbound on State Road 50. Trooper Roselle then assumed the lead in the pursuit, and we attempted to box the motorcycle in, again on East Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, near the intersection with Ellington Avenue.
Westbound is little close.
The driver was arrested for fleeing to elude with lights and sirens activated at a high rate of speed, reckless driving, and driving with a suspended or revoked license. This is the third subsequent violation. On August 18, 2024, at approximately 3:13 p.m., I received a call from Arkansas State Police Troop J Dispatch that several people have called about a reckless driver that was driving speeds over 100 miles per hour and weaving in and out of traffic on Interstate 40. Upon approaching the 51-mile marker, I observed a silver Lexus passenger car at a high rate of speed eastbound on Interstate 40. I activated my front opposite direction radar and clocked the vehicle in at 116 miles per hour in a 75 mile per hour zone. I activated my emergency lights and siren and pursued the reckless driver.
Speeds are 100. Weird.
I'm not holding yet, sir.
I'll call Street cut up for that. 26 cars, we're approaching the 64 eastbound speed.
He just tried to text me. We're still eastbound.
Upon approaching the 67 eastbound exit ramp, I observed a reckless driver aggressively swerve to the right toward the 67 exit ramp and then swerve to the left. Then the driver lost control of his vehicle, entering the grassy median.
Yeah, cruise aware. Yeah, cruise aware.
The vehicle then overturned approximately 15 times before impacting the cable barriers in the median and crossing the westbound lanes. In the end, it came to a final rest upside down on the north side of the Interstate 40. I entered the median and exited my patrol unit and ran toward the scene of the crash. I observed the vehicle upside down in a ditch.
You found him? You got him? We got him.
Trooper Fales and Officer Haynes arrived on scene and attempted to locate the driver. I located the driver, later identified as Kendall Jowett, approximately 30 yards east of the upside-down vehicle. I attempted to talk with Jowett, but he was unresponsive. First responders and EMS arrived on scene and called for a helicopter to transport Jowett. On Saturday, November 9th, 2024, while conducting routine patrols in the area of Stagecoach Road and Highway 5 at Interstate 430, I, Trooper Anthony Goins, noticed a black Mercedes-Benz passenger car with Arkansas tag. After running the tag and atlas, it returned to a silver 2015 Hyundai Sonata. I then closed in on the vehicle to confirm I read the tag correctly. I followed the vehicle without license sirens activated until it accelerated quickly and darted off at Shackelford Ward at exit 5. At this point, I activated my license sirens and advised Troop A communication I was in pursuit. The driver, later identified as Denzel Kentrell Jackson Jr., disregarded other motorists as it ran through a red light and a four-way stop sign on Shackelford Road. He also drove on the wrong left side of the roadway as he made a left, heading north on Romine Road.
Wrecked out, white, black male, white shirt, gray sweatpants, going behind the house.
The vehicle traveled at a high rate of speed through a residential area. Mr. Jackson tossed papers out of the car near Romine Road and Kensington Drive before crashing into a brick residential mailbox at the corner of Romine Road and Monique Drive at approximately 2:10 p.m. Mr. Jackson exited the vehicle, fled the scene on foot, and headed northeast into the wooded area behind the homes of Monique Drive and Tanya Drive. On November 14, 2024, at approximately 08:30, Mr. Jackson was taken into custody at the North Little Rock Probation Parole Office. He was transported to Pulaski County Regional Detention Center. I was notified that DTF Commander Chad Henson was pursuing a fleeing vehicle northbound on Interstate 555. I responded to the area and intercepted the pursuit as it traveled north of the Caraway Road overpass. I took over as the primary officer in the pursuit at that time. The suspect continued to flee northbound on I-55 at speeds over 100 miles per hour.
Chad, let me take over for you. 1305 is primary. We're about Harrisburg Road, speed 12.
36 is secondary. I'll take comms. Passing under the Harrisburg exit, 110. Light traffic.
24 Harrisburg exit.
The suspect was driving recklessly, passing another motorist on the shoulder. The suspect exited the interstate at the Southwest Drive exit. I was able to close the distance between myself and the suspect as we traveled down the exit ramp.
Southwest Drive exit.
On Alexander, stand by for direction. TVI, Southwest Alexander, TVI. On Alexander, stand by for direction. TVI, Southwest Alexander, TVI.
The suspect turned right onto Alexander Drive and continued to flee toward the intersection at Southwest Drive. At that time, I performed a TVI stop in the pursuit. The suspect was given verbal orders to exit the vehicle. He ignored commands and was pulled from the vehicle and taken into custody. After the suspect was in custody, I was informed that the suspect had thrown items from the vehicle before my involvement in the pursuit and that some bags of marijuana had been recovered. The suspect was transported to the Craighead County Detention Center by another trooper to await a bond hearing. On June 20th, 2024, I, Trooper Elvis Nolasco, spotted a white Mercedes four-door with dark window tint traveling north on State Road 91 on the Florida Turnpike at approximately the 145-mile marker in the outside lane.
Pull over to the right.
I ran the vehicle's tag and registered owner and found that the registered owner had a suspended license and a ceased tag order. I activated my license sirens at approximately the 147-mile marker and the vehicle changed lanes to the outside lane.
21 Echo Kilo Sierra Mike on a white Mercedes four-door. Hitting the shoulder at the northbound at the 149, passing traffic.
I instructed the driver to pull over to the right over my PA system, and the driver then began to accelerate. I informed my dispatch that the vehicle was failing to stop. At that time, the vehicle began to drive recklessly on the outside shoulder, weaving in and out of traffic.
Currently passing the 150 and a half. Traffic is moderate, speeds 98 miles per hour. Passing on the right shoulder, passing 151 and a half. Speeds 114 miles per hour. Traffic is light.
The driver exited off the 152-mile marker exit and began to head east on State Road 70. At this time, Sergeant Jeffrey Pollack joined the pursuit as vehicle number 2 and took over radio operations. The vehicle continued to drive recklessly through intersections and got onto I-95 traveling south.
Clear, clear. Green light, green light, green light.
The driver cut across all lanes of traffic to the left and attempted to make an illegal U-turn across the center grassy median, which caused him to collide with a dark-colored SUV. At this time, I attempted to conduct a pit maneuver on the vehicle. But the driver corrected the vehicle and began to travel north on I-95. The vehicle began to spin and seemed to correct itself and looked like it was about to continue fleeing. At this time, I made intentional contact with the vehicle to disable it and stop the pursuit. During this time, my vehicle lost traction, causing me to collide with several signs on the exit ramp. I drew my issued handgun and informed the passenger to not move and show me his hands. Once the occupants were in custody, I conducted a search incident to arrest of the vehicle and found a black zippered bag that contained a white powdery substance that I believed to be cocaine, 12 circular blue pills, 4 triangular pink pills, 17.8 grams of marijuana, and several pieces of drug paraphernalia. The driver was charged with reckless driving with damage to property, fleeing and eluding with damage to property, leaving the scene of a crash with damage to property, possession of cocaine, possession of marijuana, and many more. I, Trooper Ziegler, observed Sergeant J. Diaz attempted to conduct a traffic stop on a white Mercedes-Benz SUV with a Florida temporary tag.
He's going on Turnpike. He's running. No, they missed some stop sticks. They missed them.
Which did not match any vehicle. All police vehicles were fully marked. The vehicles had their overhead blue lights on, clearly identifying them as law enforcement officers.
1033 Charlie, Roberts 1031, northbound Turnpike. White Mercedes, SUV.
326, I got the vehicle off. 4 vehicles in front of me. 50 Park Road. 10 side lane.
The vehicle fled the traffic stop recklessly, leading Sergeant Diaz, Trooper Wademan, and me to pursue. During the pursuit, the suspect drove at speeds over 100 miles per hour, sideswiped another vehicle, drove on the shoulder, and ran multiple red lights, endangering the lives and property of the motoring public.
Alright, vehicle just signal forward. Signal forward vehicle, he's continuing northbound. Looks like a gray Ford Escape.
Yeah, forward, passing 242. I'm north south Turnpike. 244. 1410, 10 4. 1395. I'm north on the 249, 2315. I'll show you 1051. All right. All right, looks like we got another unit. Details, can we support? Temple, possibly exiting us on Solar County. Traffic conditions. We're just stopping for intersections, and that's what's getting us.
Singapore, the greenway, Singapore, the greenway.
We'll see if I can get this.
If I'm moving forward?
I, Trooper Ziegler, took over as the primary pursuing unit. I observed the vehicle traveling at over 100 miles per hour in a 45 mile per hour zone and called out on the radio. The vehicle failed to negotiate a curve, crashed into two vehicles, and traveled off the roadway. I called out the crash and drew my state-issued service weapon on the crashed vehicle. The windows were too dark to see inside. I gave verbal commands, and the driver, identified as Jonathan Nicola, complied. In the driver's door pocket, I observed a digital scale and numerous small baggies, consistent with drug sales. Nicola was secured in handcuffs and stated that there was a gun in the vehicle. He was detained in the back of my patrol unit until emergency medical personnel could treat him for possible injuries. Trooper Wademan arrived and had his K9 inspect Nicola's vehicle, which gave a positive alert for narcotics. The vehicle was confirmed stolen from Lee County on July 2nd, 2021. The temp tags were fake. On Friday, March 1st, 2024, I, Trooper Ramsey, was traveling eastbound on U.S. Highway 412 past the Hometown Country Store near Van Zant Road around 8:20 p.m. As I approached the store, I observed a small passenger car that appeared to be a Ford Fusion driving through the parking lot with a blinker on, but no lights. The vehicle accelerated at a high speed and then stopped in the middle of the parking lot twice. Then accelerated onto West Van Zant at a high rate of speed, still with no lights on. As I came around a corner at the top of a hill, the vehicle had lost control and had run off both sides of the road. The vehicle was back off the left side where it went through someone's front yard, struck their driveway culvert, and then crossed the road and struck a large tree before coming to a final rest. During the arrest, I could smell a strong odor of intoxicants. I then went and checked on the female later identified as Miss Melissa Hitson, who stated she felt she could walk. While getting the female out, Mr. Thomas was yelling that he stole his sister's car. Now, at a safe distance from the fire, I read Mr. Thomas's Miranda warning, in which he was willing to talk. He stated he had drunk a shot and a beer, but his mother was more drunk. He also stated he had just been released from prison in November. I was traveling on Interstate 430 north near mile 8 when I observed a black BMW passenger car traveling ahead of me at a faster speed than the surrounding traffic. I initiated my front antenna and observed an initial speed of 88, but the vehicle had increased speed to 91 in a posted 65 mile per hour zone. As I approached the rear of the vehicle fled the stop, turning east onto Control Road. I pursued the vehicle through several city streets as the vehicle reached speeds of 100 miles per hour.
South on Pleasant Valley. Traffic speeds of 80. Continued straight through. We're going to be on Valley Club Drive. Speeds 40.
As the vehicle was negotiating a right curve on Valley Club Circle, I attempted to position myself to conduct a TBI. But the subject braked to avoid it. While catching up to the vehicle, he continued to brake check me, causing me to ram the rear of his vehicle. The pursuit turned south onto Wendy Lane, approaching Henson Road. I knew Henson was a high-traffic area, which would be dangerous to the motoring public. I decided to execute a TBI on Wendy Lane at Henson Road. The driver was seen grabbing a black backpack from the vehicle and began to flee west on Henson Road. The subject jumped a privacy fence into the residency of 577 Valley Club Circle. I circled around to the front of the residence to search the backyard when the homeowner yelled at me that the individual had entered his home. The homeowner and his family pointed to the subject who was laying down in the hallway. The chase began when a police officer spotted a Chevrolet Malibu that was speeding and sharply making inappropriate maneuvers. After he turned and noticed that the police officer turned behind him, the driver of the Chevrolet significantly increased his speed and began to run away. While driving down the freeway, the speed of the chase crossed 120 miles per hour.
So we're going off at the ball. Yeah, now I'm rebel.
About to go southbound.
In an attempt to get away from the police officer, the suspect drove off the road and through the oncoming lane.
Station 63 for state call, 1063 for state call, hold on traffic.
Alright, we're still southbound coming through. Blackmail driver, no tags. Speed 75.
After the suspect turned into residential areas and the speed of the chase slowed, the decision was made to stop the suspect at all costs.
We just hit him right here.
At the first opportunity to do so safely, the police officer implemented a pit maneuver. The suspect ran out of the car and began fleeing on foot, holding a black bag. A short time later, the suspect was apprehended and the black bag was added to evidence as it was full of drugs.
I tossed 2 phones there, right?
I'll sit in there.
I can't get my back very well.
I'll sit in there. What's your name?
Trying to let me on with you.
I want to thank you again for watching the video.